This looks promising. Oh, I think we're live. Okay. Oh, looks like we're live. So, hi everybody. Everybody who's currently viewing us. We're gonna wait a few minutes and see if anyone else joins us. Oh, we're up to 5 people. That's exciting. So while we're waiting, I thought I would take some time to talk to you about what you can expect from us for the upcoming weeks. So first of all, hi, my name is Katie. Katie, Katrina, they both work, but Katie is sometimes a bit easier to remember. And I am one of your summer reading students. Allison is my fellow summer reading student, and she actually did a kid's story time about an hour ago, and it was awesome. So I'd recommend checking that out if you would like. And I thought I would run down sort of like what is happening this week and what you can expect from us this summer. So yesterday we actually had 2 posts. One was a reader's advisory, so that was some really cool recommendations for you. They were all sports themed this week, so we're going to have sort of different recommendations with different themes every week. We also had a bookish games post that was themed around Percy Jackson, which is actually the book that we're going to be reading today. So if you feel like playing that, you can check it out. It's on our Facebook page. Let's see what else. Oh, we have a craft coming up later today. We're making paper airplanes, which is themed around Allison's craft from earlier today. Tomorrow is science at home, so we have a video coming out for you, as well as a word prompt, a writing prompt that you can use if you want to try some creative writing. We have trivia on Thursday. You can register for that at orangeville.ca.
Enchanted Storytime.
Oh, Enchanted Storytime, which will be in the morning. That will be posted here on YouTube. And finally, we have Fame Friday. Fame Friday is super cool because we have a featured guest in the morning. So that will be firefighter Kelly, who will be reading us a story. And then in the afternoon, we have Fame Friday. So if you have anything that you would like to submit for Fame Friday, whether that be artwork, writing, just anything that you would like to share, we will share it with everybody over YouTube, and there's a chance to win prizes. So look for that. Should we wait a few more minutes? Let's see. I'll give it 1 more minute. See if anyone else arrives here with us today. Oh, you know what else I should mention? I should mention Beanstack. So if you haven't already, register with us on Beanstack. It's a super cool program that allows you to track your reading. There'll be lots of opportunity to win prizes on there and just keep track of your reading over the summer. So that's a super cool program that we have. All right, so I think we're good to go. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tween Read Aloud with the Orangeville Public Library and the TD Summer Reading Club. My name is Katie, and today we're going to be focusing on adventure books. So an adventure can be defined as a remarkable or unexpected journey, experience, or characters take unexpected journeys that are exciting for both them and the readers. So the novel that we're going to be reading today is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. So Percy Jackson follows a young boy who discovers that he is a demigod, which means that he is half human, half god, and he happens to be the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea. So I remember reading this book when I was a kid. I really enjoyed it. It really got me into mythology, and the cool thing about Rick Riordan is he writes a bunch of books about mythology. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that near the end, as well as giving you some more recommendations on different types of adventure books that you can find here at the library. So let's get started. So this is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and it was published by Hyperion Books for Kids. Okay. Chapter 1. I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is close this book right now. Believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about your birth and try to lead a normal life. Being a half-blood is dangerous. It's scary. Most of the time, it gets you killed in painful, nasty ways. If you're a normal kid, reading this because you think it's fiction, great. Read on. I envy you for being able to believe none of this actually ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, if you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. And once you know it, it's only a matter of time before they can sense it too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. My name is Percy Jackson. I am 12 years old. Until a few months ago, I was at a boarding school, Nancy Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate New York. Am I a troubled kid? Yeah, you could say that. I could start at any point in my short, miserable life to prove it. But things really started getting bad last May when our 6th grade class took a trip to Manhattan. 28 kids and 2 teachers on a yellow school bus heading to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to look at Greek and Roman stuff. I know, it sounds like torture. Most of Nancy's field trips were. But Mr. Brenner, our Latin teacher, was leading the trip, so I had high hopes. Mr. Brenner was this middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and a scruffy beard and a frayed tweed jacket, which always smelled like coffee. You wouldn't think he'd be cool, but he told stories and jokes and let us play games in class. He also had this awesome collection of Roman armor and weapons, so he was the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep. I hoped the trip would be okay. At least, I hoped that for once I wouldn't get in trouble. Boy, was I wrong. See, bad things happened to me on field trips. Like in 5th grade, when we went to Saratoga battlefield, and I had this accident with a Revolutionary War cannon. I wasn't aiming for the school bus, but of course I got expelled anyway. And before that, at my 4th grade school, when we took a behind-the-scenes tour of the Marine World Shark Pool, I sort of hit the wrong lever on the catwalk, and our entire class took an unplanned swim. And the time before that, well, you get the idea. This trip, I was determined to be good. All the way into the city, I had to put up with Nancy Bobofit, a freckly, red-headed, kleptomaniac girl, hitting my friend Grover in the back of the head with chunks of peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. Grover was an easy target. He was scrawny. He cried when he got frustrated. He must have been held back several grades because he was the only 6th grader with acne and the start of a wispy beard on his chin. On top of all of that, he was disabled. He had a note excusing him from PE for the rest of his life because he had some kind of muscle disease in his legs. He walked funny, like every step hurt him, but don't let that fool you. I've seen the way he runs when it was enchilada day at the cafeteria. Anyway, Nancy Bobofit was throwing wads of sandwich that stuck to his curly brown hair, and she knew I couldn't do anything back to her because I was already on probation. The headmaster had threatened me with death by in-school suspension if anything bad, embarrassing, or even mildly entertaining happened on this trip. I'm going to kill her, I mumbled. Grover tried to calm me down. It's okay, I like peanut butter. He dodged another piece of Nancy's sandwich. That's it. I started to get up, but Grover pulled me back into my seat. You're already on probation, he reminded me. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Looking back on it, I wish I had decked Nancy Bobofit right then and there. And school suspension wouldn't have been anything compared to the mess I was about to get myself into. When Mr. Brenner led the museum tour, he rode up front in a wheelchair, guiding us through the big echoey galleries, past marble statues and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. It blew my mind that this stuff had survived 2,000, 3,000 years. He gathered us around a 13-foot stone column with a big sphinx on top and started telling us about how it was a grave marker, a seal, for a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the side. I was trying to listen to what he had to say because it was actually kind of interesting, But everyone around me was talking, and every time I told them to shut up, the other teacher chaperone, Miss Dodds, would give me the evil eye. Mrs. Dodds was this little math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket, even though she was 50 years old. She looked mean enough to ride a Harley right into your locker. She had come to Nancy halfway through the year, and after our last math teacher had a nervous breakdown. From her first day, Mrs. Dodds loved Nancy Bobofit and figured I was the devil's spawn. She would point her crooked finger at me and say, "Now, honey," real sweet, and I knew I was about to get after-school detention for a month. One time, after she'd made me erase answers out of an old math workbook until midnight, I told Grover I didn't think Mrs. Dobbs was human. He looked right at me, real serious, and said, "You're absolutely right." Mr. Brenner kept talking about Greek funeral art. Finally, Nancy Bobofit snickered something about the naked guy on the steel, and I turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" It came out louder than I meant it to. The whole group laughed. Mr. Brenner stopped his story. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "do you have a comment?" My face went totally red. I said, "No, sir." Mr. Brenner pointed to one of the pictures on the steel. "Perhaps you'll tell us what this picture represents." I looked at the carving, felt a flush of relief because I actually recognized it. "It's Kronos eating his kids, right?" "Yes," Mr. Brenner said, obviously not satisfied. And he did this because, well, I racked my brain to remember. Kronos was the king god and God, Mr. Brenner asked. Titan, I corrected myself. And he didn't trust his kids who were the gods. So Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters. "Ew," one of the girls behind me says. And so there was this big fight between the gods and the Titans, I continued, and the gods won. Some snickers from the group. Behind me, Nancy Bobofit muttered to a friend, "Like we're actually going to use this in real life. Like it's going to say on our job applications, please explain why Kronos ate his kids." "And why, Mr. Jackson?" Mr. Brenner said. To paraphrase Ms. Bobofit's excellent question, does this matter in real life? "Busted," Grover muttered. "Shut up," Nancy hissed, her face even redder than her red hair. At least Nancy got packed too. Mr. Brenner was the only one who ever caught her saying anything wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and shrugged. "I don't know, sir." "I see." Mr. Brenner looked disappointed. "Well, half credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who, of course, being immortal, have been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him into pieces with his own sword, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On a happy note, it's time for lunch. Mrs. Dodds, would you lead the way back outside?" The class drifted off, the girls holding their stomachs and the guys pushing each other and acting like doofuses. Grover and I were about to follow when Mr. Brenner said, "Mr. Jackson?" I knew that was coming. I told Grover I was to keep going. Then I turned to Mr. Brenner. "Sir?" Mr. Brenner had this look that wouldn't let you go. Intense brown eyes that could have been 1,000 years old and had seen everything. "You must learn to answer my question," Mr. Brenner told me. "About the Titans?" "About real life and how it applies to your studies." "Oh, what you learn from me," he said, "is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will only accept the best from you, Percy Jackson." I wanted to get angry. This guy pushed me so hard. I mean, sure, it was cool on tournament days when he would dress in a suit of Roman armor and shout, "What ho!" and challenge us, sword point against chalk, to run the board with every Greek and Roman person who'd ever lived, their mother, and what god they worshipped. But Mr. Brenner expected me to be good as everybody else, despite the fact that I have dyslexia and attention deficit disorder, and I had only ever made above a C- in my life. No, he didn't expect me to be as good. He expected me to be better. I couldn't learn all those names and facts, much less spell them correctly. I mumbled something about trying harder, while Mr. Brenner took a long, sad look at the steel, as if he'd been at the girl's funeral. He told me to go outside and eat my lunch. So I think that's all we're going to read for today. I really hope you enjoyed. I'd like to recommend some other adventure books that you might enjoy. So starting off with some books that you can get from the library, I would recommend the Blackwell Pages series. So this is a book that is very similar to Percy Jackson, except it follows a bunch of kids who are connected to Norse mythology. So the first book in that series is Loki's Wolves, and that is by K.L. Armstrong and A.M. Marr. So the other book I want to recommend to you would be oh man, I'm totally losing it. You know what? The other book I'd like to recommend to you is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. So these are really fun books about a boy wizard who is attending wizarding school, and they're also super fun and adventurous. And of course, behind me, I have some more books by Rick Riordan, if you can see them there. There's Percy Jackson's Greek Heroes, the Magnus Chase series, which is another series about Norse mythology, and The Trials of Apollo, which is about the Greek god Apollo. It was fun. So anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, we're going to be staying on the line a little bit longer, so feel free to type something in the comments, and we can answer those questions for you. Oh, I don't. Just a reminder that later today we will have a craft. It's going to be making paper airplanes, and that's connected to Allison's story time, which will already be posted to our YouTube channel. I definitely recommend you check it out. It's really fun. And it's a super cool activity, and you can find that all over our social media on Facebook and on Instagram soon. And that should be posted around 1:30. So I think I'll give it another few seconds, and then I think I'll have to say goodbye for today. But it was really fun. I'm really happy that we got to spend this time together. If you really enjoyed this, feel free to check it out from the library. It's an entire series. So if you like the first book, the story keeps going. And again, that is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. You take a look. So thank you everyone for joining us. See you later.